Well, there was 90,000 eyes on Johnny Unitas as he drove down the field and in an 80-yard drive capstone with a 1 yard surge across the line for the victory. The year was 1958. It's considered to be one of the greatest games ever played between the New York Giants and the Baltimore Colts. The hero is Johnny Unitas. You look back on Johnny Unitas' life and you say, well, of course, it was Johnny Unitas. And the soon after that, the next year, he became the NFL's MVP, which he won two other times as well, and fantastic athlete. But just a few years earlier, in 1955, he was cut from his home team, from his hometown in Pittsburgh by the Pittsburgh Steelers. In fact, he was so low that he was playing on a semi-pro team for only $6 a game. But you see, he believed in his dream, and his dream was, hey, I am going to be a professional football player, and of course, he was, and the rest is history. But Johnny Unitas had something that all of us really should have, and that is persistence, because he understood that persistence leads to victory. And as I think about Johnny Unitas, I think of other people as well that showed this. You know, back in 2000, Sports Illustrated did a vote on the Sportsman of the Year, and my nephew, uh, who is still a great sports fan, and I were watching it together over at his house. And of course, my nephew, growing up a lot of his life in the 1990s, of course, really believed that the person that should win that would be Michael Jordan. And he is one of the people that I said, hey, you know what? That's probably a good one. The other one was Pele. And the third one was Muhammad Ali. And I thought one of those three, those are probably the shoe ins for this award. Before I come back to who won that award, though, I'd like to just kind of talk about a couple of those guys. Not everybody and maybe knows Pele, especially the young kids, but Pele was a champion soccer player or footballer, as they say, and he had played for the same team down there in Brazil for 19 years. He'd led the team to many, many world championships and World Cup appearances. Um, and he was getting towards the end of his career, and he could have just very easily uh, just retired. And I mean, he was a national treasure to Brazil. But he had an opportunity to come to New York, to the New York Cosmos, which was a struggling team. They were only pulling in a little over 3,000 people for the games. Uh, Not real well. They were struggling financially, and he came over there because he saw he had a vision, and the vision that he had was that that the United States at that time, soccer wasn't a very a big sport. It hadn't really reached any place, and this was an opportunity for him to spread the game that he loved so much. And sure enough, he went out there and he played a few years, and he got injured and he got bruised, and as he was getting older, he didn't score quite like he did before, but boy, when he did his classic bicycle kick, it was a thing of beauty. It was like he almost like froze in the air. Within just a few years, they went from a little over 3,000 per game to over 35,000 per game. He exploded that. He created, because of his courage in coming and trying something completely new, and he's putting his reputation at risk. He created a sport. You can't go in any major city or small town and there's not a soccer club or team, in those towns today. Well, that all started with a guy named Pele. Fantastic individual. The other person I want to talk about is Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali, he at the age of 18, he was in 1960, he was the light heavyweight boxing champion in the Olympics, and then about 4 years later, he won the world heavyweight boxing championship from Sonny Liston, and then not long after he won the title, he changed his name to Ali, which means Cassius K, known as the Louisville Lip, and he became a Muslim, changed his name, became a Muslim, and when he did that, he started to get very, very political. Excuse me. And he was drafted into the army to go to Vietnam, and he refused. And he refused because he said it wasn't a just war and that African Americans were overrepresented in the combat over there, and he didn't think it was right. So they stripped him of his title. They took away his boxing license, and he went from fighting in the ring to fighting in the courts. And eventually, he was going to get back his right to be able to box. Well, he eventually won his title back, and he boxed until his late 30s and retired with a record of 55-5. Pretty amazing record, and really changed the sport. But he was willing to put everything at risk for something he believed in. Both of these guys showed persistence. They had a dream, they had a vision. And, I look at myself and I look at the people around me that I meet, and I wondered, do we have that persistence? Johnny Unitas was persistent in his goal to become a football player, and he became one of the greatest. And, of course, Muhammad Ali was known as the greatest, and it was, again, through persistence. And then, of course, we had Pele, who was willing to put things, his reputation on the line and stick with it, and he created really a national sport here in the United States. So my goal is, everyone, look at what we're doing. Are we consistent? Are we persistent? Because persistency leads to victory. Not just in sports, but in everything we do. Let's make conscious efforts to be consistent and persistent so you and I can, in whatever field that we're looking at, be victorious. Have a great night.